Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur, and the Spurs go marching in. Is it marching in or marching on? I always seem to not know which one that is. I sort of sing somewhere in between the two. Do you know what I mean? What win? What result? Some people will look at that on face value and say, yeah, it's just Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth look like a good team. As you know, Matt was saying to me on the pod I did midweek, they've had a takeover this summer. They've spent over £100 million. They've got a brand new manager in who likes to play proactive, front foot, attacking, aggressive football, as Ange Postecoglou does. They're a decent outfit. They're a decent team. And I think we saw that today. I think Bournemouth didn't make that easy for us. Our goals came from moments of pure inspiration and we had to work hard for it. We did have to work hard, and I think Bournemouth they'll be a difficult outfit for a few teams this season. But we're not here to talk about Bournemouth, are we? We're here to talk about Tottenham. And it's great. It's great to continue the season. I was pessimistic at the start of this year, thinking, we're going to struggle without Kane. We haven't signed enough players. Blah, blah, blah. You know, is Postecoglou, is he, I know a lot of people like him, but is he going to be experienced enough? Is he going to take to the Premier League? I mean, he's just blown all that out of the water, hasn't he? We talk about all the, the cheesiness of saying someone's like a new signing and all this type of thing, but it feels that way. The whole squad feels fresh. It feels rejuvenated. We've got the likes of Bissouma. We've got the likes of, I can't say Doggy's like a new signing. He literally is a new signing. All right, we bought him last year, but he's been on loan for a year. So he literally is a new signing. But, James Maddison, what a signing. Literally, again, like a new signing. I'll get to somebody who I think has been refreshed as a result of this. And I'm sort of going through the team and I'm like, well, it's mostly Bissouma, who is one of the ones who's like a new signing. But I think he's got Sonny working hard again. He's got Sonny becoming an important part of the team again. That's probably unfair, isn't it? Sonny has always been an important part of the team. But last year, he just felt like he was drifting out, that he was becoming somebody that we were maybe going to get rid of. But he's the captain again. Well, not again, but he is the captain now. He's pretty much at the heart of most attacking things that we do. Somewhere between him and Maddison, but they link up very nicely. I don't need to keep straining this whole kind of like a new signing thing, wondering about the effect Ange Postecoglou's had on the team, because we just look absolutely brilliant. We look fantastic. The life he's managed to breathe into this squad of players, new or not, is unbelievable. The way he's got them bought into it. Romero said this week that we felt like a family, that the team feels like anything is possible under him. He's achieved this in a matter of weeks, It's quite astounding. And, we were told this by Celtic fans. We were told this by Aussie Spurs fans who were hopeful that he would be able to translate this. But, I don't think it's any kind of like, ye of little faith. Maybe to a degree, but I think everybody has a right to feel guarded about something like this, about a new manager coming to Spurs. We've had a lot of false dawns over the past few years. I honestly don't think... was anybody really expecting us to be quite this good, quite this soon? It's amazing. The way those goals were worked, both of them, were unbelievable. Sarr's pass. Sarr, there we go. There's one of the other new signing type lads. Conte did give Sarr his opportunity in the Champions League, to be fair, but I don't think he ever put as much faith in him as Ange seems to be doing right now, because the lad looks unbelievable, doesn't he? He really has gone from being one of those players where we're thinking, in a few years, he'll be somebody that will be... No, None of that stuff now. He's a viable and essential member of the first team. He's absolutely phenomenal. But we'll dial down more into the players in the second half of the pod. For now, just looking at kind of Sarr's pass through to Maddison. Maddison's finish. Lovely to see him get off the mark. Feels funny to say that's his first goal for Spurs, because he's been pretty much involved in nearly every single goal we've scored this year. But a great finish from him. What a great performance. Definitely going to be talking about him some more. And then that second goal. Absolutely sublime. The way that's worked. The way they're all fighting for it. The way Udogie has fought to keep that ball from going out. To get the cross in. And the finish from that acute angle from Kulusevski, who was absolutely brilliant today. Absolutely brilliant. Coming back to some of his best. It's exciting. Like I say, Bournemouth were no pushover today. That wasn't just a case that they were a team there for the taking. They made that hard. They defended well. They were compact. They attacked well. They didn't just sit back. Like, well, no disrespect, but Brentford, who do play more of that Thomas Frank low block style. Bournemouth didn't play like that. I thought Bournemouth basically looked a bit like us. They played in that very compact, well-drilled defensive style, but they still came for us. They still attacked a lot. Semenyo was a handful. Very, very good player. Honestly, I wouldn't be against us having a punt on him, because he looked like a very, very handy footballer. It's just exciting, isn't it? It's exciting to see Spurs in a place now where we're not dreading games, but we're getting results, but actually enjoying the manner in which we're getting these results. Because there's so many times under Conte and even under Mourinho, where we'd get results. And you think, well, we can't fault them. If this type of football gets results, then fair play to him. Whatever, it's what we need to do. We need to drop this mentality that we have at this club where we think we need to do things this Tottenham way and all this type of thing. But really, it's all just about winning. It's just about getting those 3 points. But it just isn't. The football supporting experience should be so much richer and so much more exciting than just, as one of the great sayings goes, boring the opposition into submission. It shouldn't be about that. And it doesn't have to be about that. And Ange Postecoglou is already proving that it doesn't have to be about that. We've spent a bit of money, we have done, so we can't say that this is all completely done on some shoestring. And it is going to be interesting. I mean, we've beat Manchester United. I'm getting to a point now where I'm thinking, bring on Arsenal. Bring it on. It's early days, but the confidence is flying high. And I'm seeing a fair few gooners on Twitter saying, Spurs look decent, Spurs look tidy. I don't like how quickly they've managed to turn it around already. I was enjoying them being crap for a while. And, we know those feelings, right? We know those feelings, seeing them turn a bit of a corner the past couple of years, how much better they've managed to get. That, it's annoying when your rivals, you hope they're going to be shit forever, and when they actually start to look all right. And I think we do look all right. And yeah, I do hasten to add, not every day is going to be like this. There are going to be some days when we come away from matches thinking, fuck, we've either not won or we've not capitalised on all of our opportunities, and we've come away with a draw or just an otherwise disappointing result. But that's the nature of it, right? We've got to have faith in it. And I think right now at this point in time, it's all just about enjoying the style of play, enjoying the spirit that he's clearly bred into this football team. But whether or not we've seen it for a while or not, it's here now. So we don't need to keep going on about Conte, about the past, all this type of thing, because Ange Postecoglou is here now, and that's all that matters. Happy days. A great result. 7 points now, starting this season. And you know what? The thing is, I'm still not in this place where I want to... No, it's not that I don't want to believe. I just want to stay in the moment for now. I want to carry on enjoying the football. I don't want to be caught up thinking about like, oh, you know, if we get these many points now, our projected tally means we're going to be in the top 4, or maybe we can... No, I just want to maintain this sense that I'm here right now in this moment with Tottenham. I'm enjoying each game, looking forward to each game as it comes. Got Fulham on Tuesday. I'm already buzzing about that. Come on, bring it on. Bring it around. I'm literally, genuinely now, I'm back to watching Match of the Day again. I'm back to watching Match of the Day because I want to hear like what the pundits have to say about us. I'm listening to all the Tottenham podcasts. I'm listening to Fighting Cock, Filthy Shambles, Hometown Glory, The Tottenham Way, The Athletics pod, all of them. Extra Inch as well, can't forget those lads. Like everybody, every single Tottenham podcast I can get my grubby, disgusting, piggy hands on. You know, it's great, and it's great to have this buzz about the place. Do you know what's actually been refreshing? Is going onto Tottenham Twitter for the past couple of weeks and not having an outright civil war about everything. I think we're sort of in a place now where even, you know, when we're talking about ticketing issues and we're talking about the running of the club, the ownership of the club, people are sort of in a place now where we seem to be able to have more harmonious discussions about it. And it really does make you realise how much your team performing well has an impact on not only your mental health, but so many of the people around you. And one might say it's ridiculous to say, but we all feel that, right? Like the sun is always shining a bit more brightly when Tottenham are playing well. And that's just the way it is. And the sun is shining very brightly at the moment. Although it wasn't in Bournemouth, was it? Fucking hell. It's absolutely tipping it down. My microphone all right? Can you hear very well? I'm trying a bit of a new setup today because for anybody who's listening, as most of you are predominantly, I do a bit more video-y stuff now. And when I say video-y stuff, I film these post-match and stick them on YouTube as well because, you know, why not? That's content, isn't it? That's content. I may be a man in my 30s, but I'm still cool, aren't I? I'm still wavy. Am I lit? Am I a drippy vlogger? I think so. Wavy, lit fam. Fucking hell. Do you know one thing? I'll tell you one thing that I was tweeting about that I want to give Ange Postecoglou. How fucking refreshing is it to finally have a manager who actually seems to make substitutes at smart times that are tactically astute, where you can clearly see why they're doing it. And it makes you realise how many managers, not only Spurs managers, but just managers in general, who overthink substitutions and, don't know, arse about. That's the best way I can put it. That's the technical term. Because it seems to be that in the past 2 games now, when he's noticed that the opposition are maybe getting the edge on us, he switched it up. He switched it up so that we have then been able to regain control of the game. If he's noticed the tide turning in a football match, he's not sat there fucking waiting for the opposition to score. How, like, especially under Mourinho and especially under Conte, how many times would it be? You know, Spurs would go, say, 1-0 up, and you would see the opposition starting to come back into the game. And we will all be sat there, whether sat at home, sat in a pub, sat at the ground, and all of us know they are going to score soon. Do something. The opposition are going to score. Do something. And they just never would. And then lo and behold, the opposition would equalise and then probably go ahead. And then Conte and Mourinho would make their substitutions in the 80 plus minutes of the game. Too little, too late. How nice is it now to see, when Bournemouth were starting to creep back into the game, that big Ange Postecoglou, made the changes that were just required, that we needed in order to see the game out. it's just it's astounding. It's astounding how simple it can seem, and just how effective it is. And it does make you also think, football isn't a difficult game, and it needn't be. And I know that's a bit proper football, man. And I don't think it's I don't think anything in life is binary. I don't think anything has a simple solution to it. I think everything, there is minutiae to every single decision that is made, right? But sometimes, some things, the very top of it, the very apex of every single decision, there usually is a binary call that needs to be made. You can take into account all of the data that is collected around an issue. But there are some people that are just decisive. I guess that's the word. And I feel that with Ange Postecoglou, and it may well be his age. And I think the thing about him is, I think we are in this, and this probably does a disservice to him for the rest of his career, but right now, where he has arrived at Tottenham, it's funny because he's a bloke in his, let's have a look. I want to say he's in his late 50s. But he might be early 60s. But I think I think off the top of my head, he's 56. That's what I'm going to say. But let's have a look. Ange Postecoglou. 57. There we go. Nearly. 57 years old. So he probably is one of the older, more experienced in terms of years, managers in the Premier League. However, because he's so new to managing in Europe, he almost feels like a fresh, new, young manager. But he just has the experience, the human experience of being a guy of 57 years old, a guy who has gone through it all, right? I'm not sure when it was from. There was a podcast doing the rounds, an old Ange Postecoglou podcast, where he's talking about if you want anything in life, you can achieve it. You just have to work for it. I'm a big believer in working hard. And it's easier to work hard when you're working at something you love. And I completely believe in that. I completely understand what he's saying. Because, I know that when I do this stuff, when I do like my, Spurs wipe, when I do like writing, when I do the podding, when I do various other bits of my writing and stuff, Spurs or not, but when I'm flexing that kind of creative muscle, I can just sit and do that for hours, and I can be completely immersed in it and love it and be prepared to do that. But I've had jobs in the past, and we've all had jobs, and I do some jobs now where it feels like pulling teeth, and it feels so hard, and you get these moments when you're like, God, am I just this lazy shit? I can't, why am I so entitled? Why do I feel this way? But it's not. It's about doing something that you love. And with Ange, I think if he can breed that type of mentality, if he can just, I don't know, I guess, pass on some of this wisdom to this young crop of players, there could be something very special happening at Tottenham, right? And I get it. I put some of these videos out this week. And some people are saying, come on, mate, it's 2 games. Don't get overexcited. And it's like, but we've all followed Spurs for long enough to know when something feels right, when something feels different. And this feels that way. This guy, for anybody who I doubted, and again, I nod to Jack, Debaser92 on Twitter, who said to me, just have faith in him, mate. Have faith in this guy. He's the real deal. It's true. It's true. There is something very special about him. And like I say, I just think, we talk about there being a toxic blend in football. We spoke about Conte being the toxic blend. I think Postecoglou is completely the antithesis of that. Postecoglou is the entirely positive cocktail with Tottenham, because it seems to be so much of the collective ethos of the club and the man fits together in tandem completely perfectly. And it's such an exciting time for Spurs. It's such an exciting time. You don't want to get too excited, and we don't want to fall into this trap of expectation, because I think for a lot of us, what has made us happy at the moment is the lack of expectation, of almost Postecoglou seeming like a bit of a roll of the dice. And as soon as we start with the whole, we should be winning this game, we should be winning that because we want top four, our aspiration is for this and that. That's when, enemy is the enemy. Expectation is almost like the enemy of joy. It's the enemy of chaos, which can bring joy, right? And chaos is often seen as like a negative, but there is a chaotic quality to this Tottenham. The way in which we're playing that is unpredictable. I don't think anybody, none of the supporters of like the big teams, looked at Spurs this year and thought we were anything. All right, they've got this Postecoglou guy and they might be all right, but they've lost Kane. They're out of the conversation. United, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle probably even. Maybe even someone like Aston Villa. Maybe somebody like Brighton. And maybe the case will be that they see that still, and we may well be not in the conversation yet. But I think if we persist with this guy and we back him and the players back him, we could well be onto something. So, let's not expect anything. Let's continue to enjoy the football and, let's just see where this takes us. Right, let's do the players. Let's do the players. Tottenham, Bournemouth. So, Vicario didn't have an awful lot to do today. I mean, I think a keeper under Ange Postecoglou is always going to have a lot to do because he likes to play out from the back. It feels very nervy. My mate, Jonathan, who is my Aussie mate, who, some people have said, you got an Aussie mate, do you? Yeah, bollocks, kind of thing. Who has always been a big fan. Yanni himself is actually Greek Aussie, so he's absolutely buzzing for Ange, loves the guy, has followed his career through every single step of it, and he's just delighted to see him playing in the Premier League now. Unfortunately for Jonathan, though, he's an Arsenal fan. So at the moment, he's got a very, very uncomfortable relationship with Tottenham Hotspur and hoping that they actually do quite well this year, or at least while Ange Postecoglou is in charge of the club. But he was saying while we were watching this, like, it's so fucking nervy, man, Ange Ball. Like, you guys are in for a ride because he loves this playing around at the back and it's going to get you a few times, but, it's all part of the ride. It's part of what it is that he brings to it. But Vicario, I think he pulled off a couple of good stops. He seems solid today. He seems a lot more confident, and that's what we wanted from him. Maybe it's not good to judge a player after a few pre-season games and one game in the Premier League because he seems to suddenly just be confident. And who knows? Maybe that is somebody like Ange that has said, "Look, lad, mate, it would be, wouldn't it? Look, mate, I've noticed you've been a bit shaky the past couple of games. Snap out of it. We signed you because you're a good keeper. You're a great player. Come on, you're here for a reason." And bang, that's it. I mean, this is my fanfic again, isn't it? But you kind of feel like that might be the case. Long may it continue. Pedro Porro, he's kept faith with him. He's spoken this week about whether or not Pedro Porro can play in this kind of inverted right back position, which, if I'm brutally honest, I don't fully understand. I'm not a tactico. I understand the basic principle of a lot of these tactical ideas, and I can see it with my own eyes to a degree. The inverted full-back, inverted right-back, left-back, whatever you want to call it, system, I do kind of get, but I probably don't understand the full workings of it and why it seems to be so controversial. Why Gary Neville was digging Spurs out for it. I'm not 100% on that. But still, it was interesting to see him stick with Pedro Porro because he has split opinion. People have said, maybe, Emerson Royale, myself included in that, have said maybe Emerson Royale is better for this system. Maybe he's the guy that we need to go with. I don't know. Who knows on that one? But Porro did a good job today. He was good against Manchester United in the second half especially. He's got a lot of spirit. You can tell he's really, really up for the fight here. Really, really up for it. There was that moment, wasn't there, when I think Bournemouth had a tenuous kind of shout for a handball when Porro managed to close down one of the attackers and get the ball out for a corner, and he was like geeing everyone up, really getting into it and stuff. And that's just what you want to see. That you want to see that kind of belief engendered throughout the entire squad, and you feel like Ange Postecoglou has managed to do that with them. So that's particularly exciting. Let's wait and see, Let's wait and see on Porro. I do like him. I think he's a decent player. Let's just see. I'm not going to completely backpedal on it after a few games. I still probably have my reservations on whether or not he's the perfect fit for this system. But, that's not for me to decide. That's for Ange Postecoglou to decide, and for him to continue to coach him in a way that he sees fit. Because, fuck, man. Who'd have thought it, right? Who'd have thought it that coaching players actually works? Coaching players actually breeds results. Christian Romero, solid. And we'd all hoped for this, right? We'd all hoped for Christian Romero to really consistently show some of what we felt he had the potential to do. That sentence really didn't make a lot of sense, did it? But he's always been a player that we've known has some really great, attributes, but has sometimes lacked maybe the mental capacity to get through games without getting himself kind of booked or sent off, or just, not concentrating on the game. And many of us have said, let's just wait and see until he's got a decent centre-back partner alongside him. And we'll talk about Mickey van der Ven in a minute. But Romero now, with a more solid partner alongside him, seems more like the player that we hoped he'd be, right? The player that we've seen out there for Argentina. The player who is a vice-captain within this team. Who can just be solid, can be everything that we hoped he might be. I don't think he was happy last year. He's intimated to that as much. And can you blame him? Can you blame him playing under Antonio Conte, not being happy? Because I can't. But now he just looks like a totally different player, doesn't he? He looks like a totally different player. And we're hopefully going to get the very, very best of him every time in a Tottenham shirt, because the guy just looks solid. And in this system, again, I often spoke last year about his physicality, his ability to get up and down the pitch, his fitness, his strength, his pace, the way he can make those surging, driving runs into the opposition half. And it feels weird to have a centre-back that does that. But now, in this type of system, where this relentless press is required, it just makes so much more sense. And I think Ange Postecoglou must have been licking his chops seeing a player like Romero there, because he must have thought, this guy is somebody I can mould into being an absolute warrior for me. And it's early days, but it definitely feels like he's on the up and up there, because he didn't put a foot wrong today. It's very, very exciting. It's very, very exciting to see a player who many of us were so on the fence with, now actually starting to look like he justifies his price tag. And I know price tags are a boring way of, valuing a player, but it's quite literally, a way of valuing a player. Moving on from Romero, we've got to give a massive, massive shout out to his centre-back partner, Mickey van der Ven. I mean, again, early days. I'm going to have to caveat every single one of these kind of ratings, reviews, whatever, at the moment with early days. All right, I know, early days, but what's the point at which we can say they're just good? they're good. Spurs are good. We look good. You know, is there a magical threshold you reach? Please tell me. Like, please get in touch and let me know when we hit this golden ratio whereby we're allowed to be excited as fans, and when we're allowed to rate players, when we're allowed to say somebody looks like a good signing or not. Because this is going to be one of those things that continues to get levelled at us, and it's one of those things where we're going to continue to not want to get too excited about all this. But Mickey van der Ven is somebody who perfectly encapsulates all of that, right? We'd heard that he was a player who was a particular profile for Ange Postecoglou. That he was a data-led acquisition, or at least I guess it was a data-led acquisition. He was of the type of profile that Ange Postecoglou wanted. He has a lot of similar attributes to Romero. He's aggressive. He's front foot. He comes out and he meets attackers. He doesn't wait for them to do something. His objective is to get the ball off of the attacker. Again, we talk about football being a simple game. That seems simple, doesn't it? It seems so obvious, but he does it so well. Maybe, there was some fears in a different type of system that he's a type of defender that would get caught out or whatever. I don't know, but he looks absolutely perfect for this system, and that's all that I particularly care about. He is. I mean, it feels like a harsh word to say. It feels like a horrible word to say, but he's freakish in that he is so massive. He is such a massive guy. He's an absolute unit, but he's so nimble. He's so agile. He's so athletic. Like he's an unbelievable specimen. Like it's quite mad. It's quite mad. He's so quick. I mean, I don't know if anybody saw, there was that painful video. I'm not sure where it had come from, but it was, obviously somebody, one of the social media platforms had gotten some time at Spurs, and they were comparing him to various different animals. Mickey, can you run as fast as a pig? Can you run as fast as a squirrel? All this type of thing. Because I think they clocked that, the Wolfsburg track back and tackle that he made that kind of went viral last year. They tracked him running at about 23 miles an hour or something pretty mad. And so they were comparing him to all these different animals. And, like Charlotte's Dutch, she's half Dutch, half her family's Dutch. And I'm sure for any Dutch listeners, you'll know what I mean. They're not rude people, but they're just quite curt. They don't suffer the bullshit. They don't like the small talk. And I think this is quite a standard Northern European thing. I think a lot of the Brits, a lot of us have this habit of saying, hello. An example was when I was in Iceland, I would say like, hello, hi, how are you? Great, blah, blah. And one of my Icelandic colleagues was just like, why every day do you say like, how's it going? How are you doing? It's all right outside, isn't it? The weather's interesting. Blah, like it's like, hello, let's get on with our job. It's fine. And you sort of think, oh fucking hell, like, do you think I'm some fucking bore off? I mean, they probably do, to be fair, but my point was that like you can tell Van der Ven, like he was sort of like giggling along with it at first, and then you could see he hit a point with this where he was like, fucking hell, how many more of these am I going to have to go through? But regardless of that, we don't need to talk about cringeworthy social media interviews or anything like that. We can just talk about Mickey van der Ven and what an absolute fucking player he looks like. It's so mad to think that the defence was something that we were so worried about for so long. And space of, a transfer window, we've managed to almost turn that around. I do worry a bit about the lack of depth. We're still being linked with Tosin. There's a suggested swap deal with Eric Dyer has been floating about, but it seems like the lad would rather go to Monaco. So I've kind of got my thoughts on how much I want a player that doesn't actually want to be here, but I'm sure Postecoglou will have his own thoughts on that and will be working, if this player does get brought in, will be working on exactly that, and how he addresses that as an issue, if we want to put that as an issue. I don't know. But Van der Ven, what a player. Destiny a doggy, man. Like, I did it, I spoke about him last week and I clipped that bit up and I put it out on TikTok, because like I said, I'm down with the kids. I do have a TikTok now, Tetrunk_RTR pod. And a lot of people have been saying, basically a lot of opposition fans have been saying like, yeah, you're getting overexcited, but it is just all Spurs fans being like, baller, this guy, he is that guy. And we can all see it, right? We all know it. We've cycled through, no disrespect to them, but we've cycled through Reguilon, we've cycled through Sessegnon, We've had Ben Davies playing there for a bit, who I think Ben Davies is a solid, fine defender, but he's not suited to those lung-busting kind of high-pressure, movements up the pitch where he needs to get up there, commit, and then get back in time to put in a defensive shift. Destiny is blowing everybody out the water. I cannot believe he's 20 years old. I just can't believe it. I'm going to probably keep saying this all season long because he is such a phenomenal player. He's so good. He's so good. He's so good to the degree that I am worried that Manchester City will, this summer, as soon as this summer, just say, here's 100 mil, have it, shut up, he's ours. And if that happens, massive shame. But we're not looking ahead to Spurs thinking, are we going to finish in the top 4? Are we going to win something? Are we not? I'm going to do that equally with the negative shit. Who cares? Let's exist within this moment right now and say, Fabio Paratici, I didn't see eye to eye with you on everything, but in this instance, well done, mate, because you found an absolute gem there. What a player. What an absolutely phenomenal player. And Jesus, 20 years old. Long may this one continue. So, Pape Matar, fantastic pass for Maddison's goal. He's really just coming into his own. You can tell he's confident. He's feeling confident. He's looking confident. Everything he's doing, the way in which he's playing, is exuding confidence. How many more times can I say confident or package up that he's feeling confident in a certain way? But he is just great. He's very exciting. He's kind of, as I was saying in the top half, he feels like a player who we were not too long ago saying he'll be a good one for the future. He will be. He'll be, in a few years' time, he'll come good, and then we're going to be able to rely on him. But, right now he is good for the team. He's ready for the team, I think, and we just look all the better for having him in there. I think he's calm. I think he's collected in possession. I think he's ballsy. He attacks, and he looks very slight. He's he's a very thin guy, but he's tough. He's a tough player. I don't know if you must have seen it in Spurs posted this week. This Rabona type volley that he scored in training, absolutely disgusting. He's clearly got a lot of quality there. He's clearly got a lot of quality in his locker. So yeah, fantastic. What a talent. What an amazing young player. Yves Bissouma, just standard, very, very solid, tireless effort, tireless shift today. He's such a leader on the pitch. I think that's one of those things I wasn't expecting from him. Because, you see sort of his social media presence. He seems like a bit of a joker. He's sort of not messes about, but do you know what I mean? He's just having a laugh, isn't he? A lot of the time in the training room and in the changing room and all that type of thing. But it seems to be that when it's the match, he's just, it goes serious, doesn't it? It's game time. Game face on. He's an essential part of this team already. And we can keep repeating this about how mad it's been that he wasn't playing last year and all that, but it doesn't make it any less true just because it's being repeated. He's a very, very, very good player, and he just feels so solid, And I think that's a player we don't have to caveat. We don't have to say, oh, it's early days. So we've seen how good he was at Brighton. We've seen what we knew, or at least it felt like a massive coup when we signed him, and even more so now. I can't believe how cheaply we got him. Dejan Kulusevski, looking like he's getting back to his best. I mean, what a finish, number one. What an absolute finish from the guy. He's starting to look fitter. I think that's been such a big part of it. Confidence definitely plays a part, but I think his fitness has just not been quite there. I don't think he's come back from injury fully fit. I don't think he's managed to find his feet because he's just been thrown in. He's such an important part of the team, and this is under Conte, I'm saying. In the first few weeks of this sort of Postecoglou revolution, I still think struggled, but today much more on it. Not just for the goal, which again I do have to say again, what a goal, what a finish. The angle at which he took that was amazing. Brilliant stuff. But yeah, I mean, his overall play today, it looked like he was, I don't know, maybe it's confirmation bias, but it looked to me like he was working harder. Looked to me more like his effort was more productive, shall we say, that he was more of a menace for the opposition. I mean, if we can get him, imagine if he gets back to his best like we saw him for a time. Because he honestly looked like one of the best young players in Europe. In the tail end of that first Conte season, he was astonishingly good. And I've said on here before, honestly, I think it's as simple as him looking as good as he did that made Spurs tick in that bit. I really don't know how much of that was down to Conte. Honestly, I really don't. I think Kulusevski was a difference maker. And if he gets back to his best in this Postecoglou system, fucking hell, oppositions beware. Heung-min Son, Sonny boy, a good performance today, I thought. Again, good performance. Seems to be that with every game, he's again getting fitter, but just looking more comfortable, knowing his role, knowing what it is that he's got to do. He's a constant threat, a constant menace for the opposition. But it's the fact, it's the strength of it is how much he's bringing the opposition, bringing our players into it. I think him and the doggy are linking up perfectly. I think him, Basuma and Maddison all work together very, very, very nicely. I think Sonny was trying his best today to make something happen for Richarlison. I just really like this about Sonny. I like seeing him play with this confidence, playing with this directness. He doesn't seem to have this, I don't want to say a burden of scoring goals, but now that it seems to be that his role is more about creating goals, shall we say, making opportunities for his teammates, for making sure they get involved, to be more of a distraction, if you like, for the opposition. I'm really liking this. And it's good because then we know that he can score goals. And when we do shift him centrally, which is going to happen, which happened today, as we saw, he's right there for it, because he's Heung-min Son. He's won a golden boot. He's one of our record goal scorers. It's exciting. It's exciting. James Maddison. I need to talk about James Maddison because I had no idea how good this bloke was. I had absolutely no idea. We'd seen him at Leicester score some bangers, but I also remember his time at Leicester. I think he gave the ball away for Bergwijn's winner when we beat them 3-2 in that amazing reverse fixture. And I remember seeing in that kind of game when the tide was turning against Leicester that he sort of went missing a bit. And maybe that's not a fair characterisation. That's such a small sample size. But I didn't watch James Maddison week in, week out. I did have this idea that he was some match of the day player. Can crop up with a banger. Can look good while he does it. And then he goes on Instagram or whatever and posts pictures of himself in all his wavy gum and all that kind of thing. The guy is unbelievable. I take it all back. James, Madders, if you're watching this, lad, you won't be. If you're watching this, if you hear this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I took such delight in when we beat you when you played for Leicester and it looked like you were going to cry. I'm sorry I revelled in that, mate. It was a moment in time because... Geezer. I'm going to stop talking to James Maddison directly now. But what a player. Unbelievable. When I say that, I saw him score the odd banger. We did, and that doesn't mean he's not a good player. But what I didn't realise is that he had this almost maturity to him, this leadership on the pitch. The amount of pace that he has surprised me. But it's not just that. The biggest thing is his close control. This dribbling that he has. The way in which he runs at players and gets past them and then manages to just pick a perfect ball. It's like he's operating in two places at the same time. He's dribbling past the guy that's in front of him and he sees old mate who's making a run over there and he knows that once he gets past these two players, he can dink the ball over there and, hunky-dory. Like, he's an absolutely brilliant player. He would be... I said on Twitter, he would be an asset for any team in the Premier League. The only side who I'd maybe debate is Manchester United, because I think they almost have the Portuguese James Maddison in Bruno Fernandes. Some people may think Maddison is way better. Some people probably think Bruno Fernandes is way better. I do think they're fairly comparable players. I think they have some similarities. Personally speaking, I am happy that we have James Maddison. I think he's better. I do. And I think, as I said before, Manchester City will be absolutely kicking themselves that they didn't go for him. There was some talk that they were interested. They didn't follow it up. Spurs went in there, got him. Now De Bruyne's out for months. And they absolutely look like they could do with somebody like James Maddison. Because I'm not saying he's on that level. Kevin De Bruyne, my hot take on this is Kevin De Bruyne is the greatest ever Premier League footballer. I think that. James Maddison is a similar type of player to him. A lot more similar than I thought he was. He's amazing. I think he's phenomenal. I cannot believe we got him for the price that we got him for. He looks like if Kai Havertz is a £65 million footballer, James Maddison is a £365 million footballer. He's sensational. What a player. What a player. Now, it's all been a bit too positive up until this point, hasn't it? I'm sorry to say. But there is one negative from today, and that is Richarlison. Very, very, very disappointing. Look, he might be running low on confidence. I understand that. I appreciate that. I thought in the first half he was working hard. He was, looking to try and get on the end of things. He was maybe unlucky with a couple of the opportunities that fell his way. I personally thought he could have done better. There was that one opportunity. I think it was Son who played him through and he took too many touches and ended up absolutely fluffing it. I think he could have done better with that, but, Phil reckoned he was a bit unlucky. The second half, though, he just it looked like he came out of his head down. He looked like, he was in a pissy mood. You've got to brush that stuff off, man. You're a Premier League footballer at the end of the day, right? It's not all going to go your way, but the difference is between the the good players and the absolutely great players is that they can brush off their disappointments, wait for the next opportunity. You know, Richarlison, had he kept his head up, had he kept working hard, would have had opportunities, would have got his goal and could have kicked on from there. But instead, he started acting petulantly. He was sulking around the pitch, and I think he was bringing the vibe down. I do think he was, and Ange was completely right to bring him off. It was the right move because I was starting to get pissed off with him, and you know, I do think, as I keep saying, I think one of the things I do want to try and bear in mind a lot more this year is players, their mental health. And it's valid to think that way. But it is a sport, you know. We are allowed to, in our capacity as fans, if it doesn't go too far, to criticise a player and to say that their actions at times on the pitch were questionable and we didn't like them. And not everything needs to be caveated with a sense of guilt. Just don't get too carried away about it. Remember, everybody's human. Everybody can have an off day. And Richarlison definitely had an off day. But it was disappointing. I wouldn't be surprised if Ange also lets him know that he was disappointed in him. I think the sheer act of taking him off is probably enough to let him know his thoughts. And it's not enough, and it's not good enough. You know, you can say Harry Kane's going to be hard to replace. Fine, he is. He's going to be so hard to replace that nobody literally can replace him. Nobody is going to score. I mean, maybe they will, but it's what we said about Jimmy Greaves. But how long did that take? Nobody's going to score as many goals as Harry Kane did. That's going to take some getting used to. Like Lara said on the pod this week, Jermaine Defoe is one of our greatest ever goal scorers. His best ever Premier League return was Harry Kane's worst ever Premier League return. You know, there's a scale to this stuff which is quite insane. Harry Kane's impact on the club. But if Richarlison's got that in his head that he needs to replace Harry Kane, because it's funny because he's the one that offered it up. He said, I can't replace Harry Kane. The guy's a club icon. But I don't think anybody's really asking you to do that, mate. All that they're asking you to do is, number one, score some goals, work hard, which you are doing, but just think about the bigger picture a bit. And he's an emotional guy. I get it. He's an emotional guy. I think he is, in some ways, a bit of a man-child. Just going to open up the door to my glass house there before I say that. Yeah, he is a bit of a man-child. But today was disappointing. Today was disappointing in a different way. It's not that he didn't score. It's not that he fluffed a couple of opportunities. It was disappointing to see his personal failures or his personal difficulties overtake the good for the collective. Because so far in this team, it's all been about the collective. That seems to be the mentality that Ange is bringing to the place. And it was disappointing today to see one person put himself above the team, you know? And I don't think we need to sort of crucify the guy for that. And I don't think we need to say much more than that. But it was disappointing. It was right to take him off. I do have faith in him. I think he's a nice kid. A kid again. He's a nice guy. He's a nice man. He's a nice human being. But I want to see less of that today. Let's hope it's just a blip. I do have faith in him. He's Brazil's number 9. He's a brilliant footballer. We'll keep the faith in him. Skippy, honestly, I couldn't tell you much of what he did today. Sorry. I like Skippy. Whatever. I think it was part of an overall sort of system gear change, wasn't it, that Ange was bringing about. Where he wanted to, add a bit more defensive kind of, I don't want to say grit, but energy into the side. Bournemouth were definitely coming back into it, and we needed some legs, and Skippy will run for days. Skippy will work hard, and that's what it is. What could he do individually? What did he do individually? I couldn't tell you, but him being emblematic of a gear shift, I get that. And fine, I understand it. It's a good shift. It's a good move. Højbjerg, look, I really hope he's happy doing this. I hope he's happy being a part of this. I hope he's happy being the guy that can be what is really an essential part of this team when he comes in the times like he did against United and he did like today and shores things up. Because he works so fucking hard. I said this last year. He works so hard and he still can keep things ticking along. He can pass well. But he is a more defensively minded player. And I think if we having him as his function, to just work hard alongside Van de Ven, alongside Romero, to shore things up, great. I don't know if he's going to be happy doing that, is he? Because, he probably could start for Palace or somebody like that. Play week in, week out for them. I even saw him linked with Liverpool, I know they've been struggling to find, to get that player. Got pied off by Lavia and Caicedo. And I had heard, it's Twitter, but I did see that they were linked with him as maybe a last option for them. And you could imagine somebody like Klopp actually doing all right with him. I don't know. But I hope we can keep hold of him and he will continue to perform this function for us. Even Perisic, great. Again, when he came on, let's just keep even Perisic to keep doing what he's doing. I think he'll be happy doing this. He's an older player. He's in very good nick, but he is an older player. He doesn't have to do the full 90 minutes, but he can come on and have an impact because, he did today. He was part of the build-up of the second goal. His delivery is fantastic. He reads the play brilliantly. Great. It's great to see him playing in this attacking role. And I dare say, if we do get to the latter stages of a cup competition, he might have some say in that. He might have some say in our success somewhere along the line. That's all. That's just a prediction. It's not a prediction. It's not an expectation. That's just a bet, shall we say? It's a bit of fun. Are we allowed to do that every now and again? Gio Lo Celso came on, played very well. Hopefully the rumours are not true that he wants out, that he, doesn't feel like he's had enough game time. Because again, he came on today. He was busy. He was tidy in what he was doing. Good player. I'm happy to see him about the place. Can fill in for either. I think he can fill in for either Bissouma or Maddison. Different player to both of them. Doesn't do what each of those two can do as well. But what I'm saying is, I think he can fill in either of their positions within this system and do something of a job. Maybe doesn't quite have the defensive legs of Bissouma, but I still think he can do a job in that position. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But I think he's a good player. Let's keep hold of him. Ben Davies, Udogie went off, didn't he? Forgot to mention earlier. Don't know the full extent of that one. Let's hope it's not bad. Please, but Benny Boy came on, did a good job. We definitely were playing less expansively in that second half. So it probably suits Ben to play in that type of a system. But it remains to be seen what it'll be like if Udogie is out. Will we revert back to Reguilon or someone like that? I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. Let's hope Udogie's fine. But great performance today from all of the lads. Fantastic. Let's just keep this. Let's keep this momentum going. On to Tuesday. On to Fulham. Into Tottenham. Love it. Like I say, I am posting stuff on Instagram nowadays. Give me a follow on Instagram, Tetrunk. Also on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, kids. I am there at RTRpod_Tetrunk. So give me a follow on there. Also got Patreon. Get involved in the Patreon where there's different pods that come out throughout the week. Patreon.com/RTRpod. So yeah, I appreciate if that's not something everybody can do, then fine. Please, you can just support the pod by sharing it. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Reddit. Share it wherever you share stuff. You know, I don't know. Share it word of mouth. That still happens, doesn't it? Leave a rating, leave a review. It does help the pod to grow. I really do appreciate it. If you can't tell, I do put a lot of work into the pod, so it's nice if you can just give a little bit back, yeah? All right? Give a little bit back for your free content, yeah? But whatever, yeah. Just a little rating, a little review, fine, appreciate it. Thanks very much for listening. It's exciting times. Come on, you Spurs.